Bismillahirrahmanirrahim and Assalamualaikum. This video presentation is about Islamic derivative. It's dedicated for our lecturer Madha Hasmah Laili binti Jamal Urus. Before the presentation begins, I would like to introduce the presenters. Derivative are financial contracts. Derivative instruments rely on specific embedded contracts to serve the required commercial ends. The most commonly used types of derivative contracts are forwards, futures, options, and swaps, and these tend to be the building blocks for more complex derivative instruments. Islamic derivatives are financial products which seek to generate a similar economic profile to comparable conventional derivative instruments, even though it through a Sharia-compliant structure. Under Sharia compliance, all financial instruments and transactions must be free of at least the following 5 elements. The first one is riba, rishwah, maisir, gharar, and jal.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. My name is Ain and I will explain about the features or types in the instrument of the Islamic derivative, which is basically it have two, where the first one is exchange traded and the second one is over the counter. For the exchange traded, the contract they are traded on derivative exchange, and it was the contract traded standardized as defined by the exchange. This contract is derivatives exchange act as a counterparty to all contract. Okay, next we will move to the over the counter or OTC. Okay, this contract they are more privately negotiated and traded directly between two parties. Okay, over the counter also in the market is the largest market for derivatives.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'm Nur Azza Syuhada binti Nur Kamal and I will continue to present about the Sharia principle of Islamic derivative. I have found 7 Sharia principles of Islamic derivative. Firstly, the contract should be by a free mutual consent. Second, the contract should be devoid of gharar. Third, the contract should be free of riba. Fourth, the contract should not contain any attribute of maisir. 5. The contract should be free from fraud and ignorance. 6. The consistency of the contract. And lastly, entitlement of profit upon a liability of risk. Now, I will continue to explain about the comparison of conventional and Islamic derivative instrument. In these cases, I will discuss only 4 products of Islamic and conventional derivative. First comparison is buy al-urbun and call option. For buy al-urbun, the money is not premium. It is only a down payment on the price of the contract. The buyer have the right to conclude or cancel the sale. That means the buyer have here or option to cancel or not of the contract. Meanwhile, for a call option, nature and the use of option are such that amount of maisir or gambling. Options are used for excessive speculation. The premium also paid is impermissible according to Sharia law. Next is comparison of buy a salam and future contract. Conventional future contract are similar to the salam contract in all conditions except the full prepayment made by the buyer. Condition for a validity of buy a salam such as quality, quantity of the product, date of delivery, availability of product all similar to the future contract. However, the condition of full prepayment of conventional and Islamic is different, where buy salam should make a full prepayment while future contract is contracted. Then a comparison of buy istisna and forward contract. For by istisna, the manufacturer must make a commitment to produce the item as described. Second, the contract of by istisna cannot be revoked after the commencement of the manufacture except if the item received does not meet the contracted terms. Then the payment can be made in one lump sum or installment and at any time up to or after the time of delivery. Lastly, the manufacturer is responsible for the sourcing of input to the production process. Compared to the forward contract, the transaction take place on the predetermined future date. Then the property is manufactured only when the two parties have agreed on the term of the contract. The last instrument is wa'ad contract and swap contract. Wa'ad contract is two parties performing two unilateral promise on the same subject. Although wa'ad contract are valid according to Sharia, but it does not offer incentive for the promiser and to conclude it. Meanwhile, for the swap contract, there are two link operations that take place. According to the principle of Sharia, it's not permissible to link two financial transactions.
I will continue to explain about the structure of the instrument in Islamic derivatives. The first one is murabaha. Murabaha, also known as cost-plus financing, is a particular type of Sharia-compliant financing technique, which forms the foundation of almost 70% of all Islamic derivative products. We can see the structure of murabaha in this picture. From the structure of murabaha, we can see that this is a Sharia compliant because the first one, there is no interest is being charged by B, and secondly, the financial transaction is backed by underlying transaction in tangible goods. It is important to maintain the severance between the following three parts of murabaha as separate transaction. Next, it is arbun. Arbun, literally translating into earns money contract, it is a conditional purchase contract which is permissible under Sharia. Under an arbun contract, the buyer concludes a purchase and makes an advance of some amount which is less than the purchase price, which is Y, to the seller. The contract stipulates that if B decides to proceed with the transaction, he will pay some amount, the purchase, which is the purchase price minus the initial deposit. If B decides not to proceed with the transaction, he forfeits the deposit in favor of S, seller. Then, it is salam contract. The structure of salam contract has shown on this picture, and when using salam in structuring today, the scholar prescribes several strict conditions, including the following, which is the first one, the seller must undertake to supply a specific asset at a future date in exchange for full spot payment in advance at the start of the contract. Secondly, before delivery of the asset, the risk on the asset lies with the seller, and upon delivery, the risks are transferred to the buyer. And the last one is the buyer can enter into a similar contract with a third party in a parallel salam. This parallel contract would be independent of the first salam contract.
Hi, my name is Muhammad Naim. So I would like to share and talk about the case study and the issue regarding to the Islamic derivative. So let's go. There will be three stages involved in ICCS. First, there will be a spot exchange of principal, which is usually in different currency from the delivery currency. An agreement between two parties to exchange one stream of series of profit payment in one currency for a stream set of profit payment in other currency over a fixed period. An accounting exchange of profit payment will happen during the swap's life and finally upon maturity, and the party will exchange a principal amount which would be in a different currency from the spot principal. For the ICCS, there will be two murabahah transactions, namely term murabahah and reserve murabahah. In term murabahah, a financier will buy a goods from supplier and later sell the good to another party at a deferred price, which is marked up as a profit to seller. On the other hand, a reserve murabahah, the bank will buy the good and sell it to the customer on the spot on an agreed deferred payment basis. The customer will sell the good to another party for intermediate payment and delivery to the bank on the markup price. First process, Islamic bank buy the commodity from client. For example, 3.5 million ringgit multiplied by 4.5% multiplied by 3 months. So first step, client buy a commodity through an Islamic bank from trader for cash. Step number 2, Islamic bank buy the commodity from the client at cost plus KBA, assuming KBA is floating at 3.5%. Step number 3, Islamic bank sells the commodity at cost. So we go to the second process. Client buy the commodity from the Islamic bank at 3.5 million ringgit times by KBA times by 3 months. So step number 4, Islamic bank buy a commodity from trader A for cash. Step number 5, client buy the commodity from Islamic bank at cost plus fixed rate at 4.5% per annum. Step number 6, Islamic bank assists the client to sell the commodity at cost. So you can see the amount of client to pay and the Islamic bank to pay. So we go to the first issue, which is liquidity. The value of cash as a strategic asset in widely knowledge in both of conventional and Islamic finance industry. In the conventional banking system, the treasury manages the bank's cash flow to maximize the profit generating potential and to safeguard both the bank balance sheet and its profit and loss statement against the liquidity risk. Conventional banks manage their excess liquidity mainly in 4 ways, which is leading any surplus in the interbank network. Second, investing in government security. Third, lending on corporate customer. And last one is keeping the excess fund at the 0% return. To resolve this dilemma, the International Islamic Financial Market (IIFM) launched the IIFM Master Agreement for Treasury Placement (MATP) in October 2008, which enabled financial institutions globally to enter OCT commodity murabahah transaction. The MATP documentation covers the following 2 separate structures. A. Whether the depositor or client act as buying agent or of the financial institution. B. Where the depositor or client and financial institution act as principal with no agency relationship. Second, we go to creditability. For the development of the Islamic finance industry, it is important that Sharia-compliant financing techniques are regarded as credible alternative to their conventional counterpart. First, the lack of central regulatory body, diverse view relating to the same product or financing technique hired by the different Sharia scholar. And last one is the general practice of non-disclosure fatwa, leading to reduced transparency in market could hamper the credibility of Sharia compliance product.
As mentioned earlier, Islamic derivatives are financial products that aim to give a stable economic profile to comparable conventional derivative instruments by using a Sharia-compliant structure. In this case, every Islamic product must be in line with Sharia. Therefore, every contract must have no elements that are prohibited by Islam such as gharar, riba and maisir. Islamic derivatives, as is well known, have some issues. The issues are lack of liquidity in Islamic money markets and doubts regarding the credibility of such products. To summarize, Islamic derivatives are an important financial product for the advancement of Islam's interests. As a result, Islamic finance will continue to attract a diverse range of investors. That's all from us. Thank you for lending us your eyes and ears.